What's going on, everybody? Trying to catch up with you here. First off, I want to apologize for the background noise you're going to be hearing. It's a rod run weekend right here on the strip. You can hear the rodders, and then you just get a little ways off strip up in the mountains and you can hear the grunts of the wild man. It's kind of odd the way it works here. You downtown, you would think that there would be nothing dangerous around this place at all, but you step off the trail just a little bit, get back on these backwoods, back in the hollers, back in the mountains, you'll find a different way of life. It ain't so much the wild man or ghosts that you gotta fear as much as it is some of the people live around here. Most part, people are good around here, want to help people. That's how we got the name Tennessee Volunteers. They're good to help people. But a lot of times, a lot of people don't take kindly to people getting on their property or trespassing or even just being in their neck of the woods. There's some pretty mean individuals around here. But anyway, over there's a campground they built. I was showing that to y'all back a year or so ago. Before I get started on this story, kind of thank y'all for all the kind comments that y'all done on that last video. I felt like it's time for me to talk about some of that stuff. I talked about it and kind of felt weird about it the next day and for a little while until I started reading some of y'all's comments. And I was thinking about it that night. Kind of got me in a dark spot and dark place. Demeanor was a little different. But this evening I want to tell you a story that I can remember being talked about when I was young. And I remember seeing the lady a couple of times when I was younger. And then, of course, when she would leave, she'd visit, everybody would talk about the story that I'm about to tell you. And say, can you believe that this happened to this lady and all that. So I'd heard the story a few times. But we'll get on with it. She had a boy, and the only kid she had was a son. And when he was growing up, they lived on the river, something quite like this. Actually, it's this river, but it wasn't in this spot. It was miles on down. And the little boy, when he was growing up, his daddy put together some boards and planks, and I've seen them before. They actually stretch out over the water. He sort of nailed them into some tree roots that hang out over the water. Kind of like that up there, except a little bit more excessively. Hung out over the water, and the little boy and his dad would go fishing there. Well, I think his daddy was a coal miner, went off to Kentucky, somewhere around Harlan, up in that area, Hazard, to dig for coal. There wasn't nothing going on in these parts back then. And he got killed somehow in the coal mine. So this mother wound up raising her son all by herself. So the little boy, I'm gonna assume he's probably around 9-10 years old when his daddy died. He would go out on that little porch that his dad built every day, and he would go fishing there. And time went on, and he grew up and went through high school, got out of high school, went into the military. I don't know if he got drafted or he was going to volunteer anyway, but he went into the military, and this was right during the outbreak of World War II. That's how long ago this has been. And so he's off fighting in the war, and he kindly gets decorated while he's over there. I know he got a Purple Heart and some other stuff. I'm not sure. I don't want to try to elaborate because I'd mess it up, and then people will be jumping on me on here. But he got some medals and some decorations while he was over there. And somewhere in Europe, I'm not exactly sure what happened, he was involved in a fight where he was in a fire, and he was burned pretty bad. And the worst part of it was his lungs were burnt. He inhaled fire. And they kept him over there in the hospital for a while. basically they knew there wasn't nothing they could do for him, so they brought him back home. And they were going to bring him back home to die. Well, backing up just a little bit, before he'd went off to war, he had met this girl, and they had got married right when he was 18. And they got married. He wasn't here long before he left for war, so he didn't get to spend a whole lot of time with her. But while he was over there fighting in World War II, rumor had it that she was kind of back here in town doing stuff that she oughtn't to be doing when her husband's not around. She kind of had a bad name for herself. So this kind of made his mother resent her just a little bit, all she'd been hearing. And then on top of all that, when he comes back home, of course he's going to be taken care of by his wife. And you can ask these mothers out here, nobody can take care of their babies, their boys, their girls, better than a mama can. So she felt that this lady not only had this bad name and was doing these things, but now they've sent her son home to die, and this woman's not taking very good care of him. So they go around and around, argue, fuss, whatnot, till I guess probably a month into this thing, the young man finally, he dies. He passes on. And the wife leaves the mother completely out of any arrangements, the burial, and what he's going to be buried in. She wants him buried in his uniform and buried with his medals. And the mother wants to keep the medals. She said that he promised her that he could have what medals he was awarded, and she wanted to keep them. Well, the wife gets the final say in it because they're married, and she says no, he'll be buried with them. And he was. It broke the mama's heart, but he was buried with them. So after all this is said and done, she loses contact with her daughter-in-law or ex-daughter-in-law. They're pretty much done with each other. So the mother goes home to grieve. And during her grievance, probably about 6 months into this, she starts having these dreams. And she starts dreaming of her son, but he's just a little boy. And in her dream, he's tugging at her leg, trying to wake her up, telling her to come fishing on the porch. And the woman, you know, she kind of wakes from this and thinks it's awful odd that she's had this dream. Not only that, but she's had it numerous times. She's had this dream over and over. Till one night she found out, to hear her tell it, her side, this wasn't a dream. She had seen him come in as a young child and was begging her to go fishing with him on the porch. Well, she was sort of terrified and didn't know what to think. And it scared her. Even though it was her son, it scared her. So this keeps happening to this lady over and over. She goes and talks to one of the granny witches in the community and tells her what's going on. The granny witch says, well, have you been down there to where he's wanting you to go, to the porch, over the water, the little dock? The lady says, no, I have no reason to go down there. That would break my heart. She says, I think you should go down there. It's obvious that he's wanting you to go there for some reason. Why don't you just go there and see what happens? So she agrees to go there. So the next day, the next morning, she gets up after having this dream again, or seeing her son, and she heads off to the porch where he would fish as a child. And she gets on the porch, and I don't know if you all have ever seen the Army soap boxes or not that they used to carry their soap in World War II. They're little plastic green boxes with just a removable lid that slides up and down about the size of a soap bar. There sits that on that dock, on that little porch. Lady thinks, that's odd. And she opens it up, and there's his medals. Now they're kind of dirty and they're kind of muddy, but there is the medals that she wanted sitting on that porch, sitting on that little dock that his daddy had built. And I remember everybody talking about how she cried and how she showed him off in the community. She went to the funeral home and they told her no, he was buried with those medals. That he was buried with them. And if you've done something, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. But she declares she didn't do anything. Those medals showed up on that porch, and she can't explain it. But she's very glad and proud to have them. And not only that, a set of his dog tags were in there also. So this kind of upset her a little bit. She couldn't understand what was going on, but at the same time she was just overwhelmed with joy to have him. And she told everybody the next night that she went to sleep, she saw her son again for the last time. And he let her know that he brought those to her, that he wanted her to have them all along, that was his wish too. And he wanted to make sure they got back to her, and that he had left them there for her. So that was her story. And best as I know, she had them up to the day she died, and I don't know where they're at now, who got them, or whatever happened to them. But I talked to a lot of my aunts and stuff that had seen the medals and everything, and just couldn't believe the story. But this lady, she was in church every time the doors was open. Real Christian lady, real nice lady, and she was just tickled to death to have her stuff back, have her son's stuff back. And I remember hearing that story a lot when I was young. I couldn't figure it out. I always wondered why he showed up as the little boy, instead of as the man or the soldier. I don't know the answer to that. I just always wondered that. But I think around here in these Great Smoky Mountains, I think the veil is very thin here. There's places that we don't understand. You've got the places like Skinwalker Ranch where people don't know what's going on. You've got other places, but I think in a lot of these national parks, the reason they're made national parks is because the veil is very thin there. There's stuff out in those woods where the trails don't go that you're not supposed to see or know about. I know here in the mountains there's structures off the trail that you can't really tell what they are, but you can tell they was at one time some sort of structure taken over by the vines and vegetation. But I think there's a thinning of the veil right here. I don't know if it's because it's just old country, it's old mountains, I don't know. But I do know this, there's a lot of strange things goes on here once you get off that strip right there and you get back in these woods. There's a lot of strangeness goes on just about anywhere as you go. But I thought I'd leave that story with y'all, and I'll get back at you. And got another one, a couple more. I got to decide what I'm going to tell next, but I've got a few on hold there. And I'll get back with y'all before too much longer. So you all stay safe, and until we meet again, let you look at that sweet southern sky. Bye, friends.